In this week's lesson, we are introduced to a model of consumer equilibrium. In order to understand our model of consumer equilibrium, we need to understand the law of diminishing marginal utility. This just means that the more that is consumed of a product, the less satisfaction that we have for each additional unit that is consumed. As an illustration, let's assume that pie is being served for dessert. And let's also assume that we are able to measure the amount of satisfaction that each piece of pie that we consume gives us. And we would measure this using a fictional measure called utils. Let's say that the first piece that we consumed gives us a great deal of satisfaction. We'll say that that's 5 utils. And we still would like another piece. And so the second piece may give us a little bit less satisfaction. Let's say that it gives us 3 utils. If we were still interested in consuming, let's say we consumed a third piece and it gave us even a little bit less, 1 util. And if we were still interested in consuming another piece, maybe that fourth piece, all of a sudden it becomes very uncomfortable for us, and so we might say that that had negative utility. This is just shown to demonstrate the law of diminishing marginal utility. Again, that first piece might be very enjoyable for us, and as we continue to consume, we start to get full, and finally we recognize that, oh man, I ate too much, I shouldn't have had that last piece. This introduces the idea that in order to increase marginal utility, we should actually consume less. To decrease marginal utility, we should consume more, thus demonstrating that there is an inverse relationship between the marginal utility of X and the quantity of X that is consumed. I want to introduce you to a couple of my playmate friends, Q and mu. Q just stands for the quantity of X. Mu just stands for the marginal utility of X. If they're on the playground and they're on a teeter-totter, this will help us to understand the inverse relationship between quantity and marginal utility. If the quantity of X is up, that means that the marginal utility of X will be down. If the quantity of X is down, that means the marginal utility of X will be up. Now we're ready to be introduced to our consumer equilibrium model. It is an algebraic equation. It's defined as the marginal utility of X divided by the price of X, the marginal utility of Y divided by the price of Y, and the marginal utility of Z divided by the price of Z. These products, X, Y, and Z, could represent budget items for us, such as food, housing, transportation, or it could mean other things such as clothing, insurance costs, recreation costs, etc. The idea is that the last dollar spent on each of your budgeted items gives you equal utility, and you will maximize your utility in terms of your budget by equalizing each of those utilities, and we get numbers when we take the utility divided by the price. Now we recognize that utility again is a fictional or imaginary number. This is just a model, and so it helps us to understand that a rational consumer will try and meet this consumer equilibrium model. If we are out of sync in terms of our model, meaning one of those ratios is greater than another ratio, and one reason why this might happen would be a decrease in the price of one product as compared to another. So it's out of equilibrium, and let's say that the marginal utility of X divided by the price of X is greater than the marginal utility divided by the price of Y. Then, in order to get back into equilibrium, we have to make some choices. One of those choices might be to consume more of X. If we consume more of X, the margin utility of X is going to decrease, and that will bring the ratio down. Or we could decrease our consumption of Y, and by so doing, that would increase the margin utility of Y. Thus, we would be restoring equilibrium. I hope this little introducing you to my little playmates helps you to understand the consumer equilibrium model, and thanks for listening.